Now, first thing, to start on with first thing, so this lesson number 4, right, is we call it as basically harmonic costing here, but we call it this one as cost and production theory. Right, to start on, do let me know in the chat box. This lesson fits under microeconomics or macroeconomics? What do you think? This lesson would fit under microeconomics or macroeconomics? Where would this lesson fit under? Micro or macro? Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm getting both the answers. Okay. Good. Okay. Right. All right. Listen very carefully, right? Hamadema starts with a base, right? So what you need to know first, in your syllabus, right? In your syllabus, we have already identified, okay, we have microeconomics, macroeconomics, blah, blah, blah. No? So lesson number 1, lesson number 2, lesson number 3, right? And which is costing, and then we have national accounting in the coming lesson, right? And until lesson number 4, right? We discuss all the topics, right? All these topics until lesson number 4. Again, lesson number 4, right? Or else with lesson number 4 rather, would fit under the concept of microeconomics. Why microeconomics, right? Why microeconomics? Why microeconomics? Because we discussed on cost and production, two important words, cost and production of a country, of a firm. අපි හැම වෙලෙම ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕනේ දැන් අපි MCQ MR කියනවා, marginal cost, average cost, ARA cost, may cost, blah blah blah. I tell me, are we discussing on a production and cost of a country or else of an economy or rather of a firm? මොකක්ද focus කරන්නේ? country එකක්ද firm එකක්ද? හැමතැනම කතා කරන්නේ මේ පාඩේ මේ firm එකක් ගැනද country එකක් ගැනද? Yes, good, right? Good, Lamai. So this is all based over a firm. A firm. So that's why we identify this as a concept or as a lesson which would fit under microeconomics concept. අපි හැම වෙලේම කතා කරන්නේ production firm එකක් ගැන. එක cost එක, එක firm එකක් ගැන. તો market එකක් ගැනවත් economic එක ගැනවත් ලකුණු කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. And the lesson number 5 would be national accounting. Then what again, national accounting are we discuss on a firm or else in an economy? National accounting, firm or an economy? Yes, good Lamai. So it's all about an economy. They can look economy. So after that, it's all about what? Macroeconomic equilibrium. Okay, macroeconomic itself, money and banking of a country, inflation, then fiscal policy, government interventions, then foreign trade, foreign exchange, blah blah blah. So entire thing after lesson number 4, whatever the things are we going to discuss is related with macroeconomics. But lesson number 1 is just introduction. Lesson number 2, demand and supply of a product, law of demand of a product. Then taxes and all these ones for a product, right? You can have got so toothbrush, Apple phone, right? A product tax karana okkom karana. But අපි economy එක ගැන ගත්තට මුළු economy එකම tax කරන්න නැහැ කපා. ඒක product එකටයි ගන්න. So this is the last lesson where we would be discussing under microeconomics. It means what? This is the last lesson, which is the easiest lesson. මේ lesson එකෙන් පස්සේ ඔක්කොම පොඩක් complex වෙනවා because මෙතනින් එහාට ඉගෙන ගන්න ගොඩක් ඒවා එකකට එකක් මොකද්ද? එකකට එකක් ගොඩක් වෙලාට interrelate වෙලා යනවා. right? ඒකෙන්ද මේක හරියට අහගන්න මේ lesson එක හරිම ලේසි. one of my favorite lessons. මම හරියට මේකට exam එකේ උත්තර දෙන්න කටපාඩම් කරගෙන බලාගෙන ගියා. But unfortunately, in the year which I did my A-levels, we hadn't have any kind of a question. Making a prashnak තිබ්බේ. But unfortunately, මේක තරම්ට lazy. ඒකින්ද I wish that this lesson would be very clear with you and මේකට අනිවාර්යෙන් උත්තර ලියන්න පුළුවන් ළමයි. ඒ තරමට මේක පට්ට lazy and I hope that you would get a better understanding on here. Right. Okay. jumping on to the concepts. So discussing on this entire part, first of all, right, what we need to know when we take a firm, right, a firm basically relates with a production. Right? It's basically related with the production. Now, there are basically two main rather time periods or else two main frames of production. What are they? අපිට දෙකක් තියෙනවා මේකේ. මොනවාද ඒ දෙක? Two time frames. Yes. What are they? Good. So it's very simple. We know, yes, it's short run and long run. Right? So we have two frames of what? Short run and long run. Right. Now tell me how to identify whether this is short run or long run. How to identify whether this is short run or long run? How to identify? කොහොමද අපි identify කරගන්නේ? ළමයි, how to identify? Depending on what can we make the judgment whether this is short run or long run? Okay. Okay, yes. So the easiest one, I have got the easiest one from your end, that is using what? Using inputs. Right? Using inputs. Right, okay. Using inputs, how to identify whether this is short run or long run, we'll discuss later. And we'll discuss later how to identify by using inputs, short run and long run. Is it only using inputs we can define whether this is short run or long run? Any other ways? How to identify whether this is short run or long run? Any other ways we have? Whether this is short run or long run? This is using inputs. The inputs you use. How yes, guess මේ පාඩම මෙහෙමයි flow වෙන්නේ. මේ පාඩමේ අපි කතා කරපු concept interrelate වෙන්නේ මෙතනයි. මට කියන්න how to identify? How to identify whether short run or long run? First one is using inputs. Right. Okay. Ari, fixed factors and scale of the business. Technology, scale of the business, technology. හරියට ඔයාලා ඔක්කොම මේ වටේ තමයි කියන්නේ. මට කියන්නේ what is the base? Okay, we can based on inputs we can make it. හරි දැන් ඔය scale of the business කොහොමද ඔයාලා කියන්නේ? නිකන් පොඩි scale එකක් ලොකු scale එකක් එහෙමද කියන්නේ? Right? Technology, how to make it technology? ඔයාලා මේ ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවා right? මම එක කියන්නේ පාඩම ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවා. මේ පාඩමේ තියෙන link එක මේ පාඩමේ තියෙන relatedness එක ඉගෙන ගන්න. එතකොට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ මම මේක ඉගෙන ගන්න කියලා. Right? Simon Sinek, there's this management guru called Simon Sinek. He says everything starts with why. You always need to argue why I learned this, why I learned this. Right? ඔයාලා කටපාඩම් කරන් ඇති මම කවරෙන් අහුවොත් එහෙම economics of scale. Blah 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 කියන්. But why we learn economics of scale? How it relates with this? Right? That is where you need to know. Okay. හරි ඒ කාවින්දයා කියනවා මම ඔයාලට උගන්වන්න දෙන ඉන්න ඔයාලා දන්නවා. Right? ඒක that's the thing. Right? Okay. First thing is right. It's using the inputs. The second thing is it's using what? Right? It's using using inputs and using the outputs behavior. This is the second way of identifying whether this is short run or long run. Now tell me, what is the last one? What is the last one? How to identify in the last one? First one is the input behavior or is the inputs, right? Yes, good. Then they know either. Second one is the output behavior. Last one is what? It is the yes. And connect here. And it's cut here. What is how to identify whether this is short run or long run? කටපාඩම් කරන් කියනවා short run නම් fix විතරයි variable විතරයි blah 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 කියලා නේ. එහෙම නෙමෙයි. What is the real logic? The third one is right. No, not the process of production, but using your what? Production firm එකේ inputs ටික මොනවාද අපි use කරපු inputs? Production firm එකේ right අපි use කරපු outputs වල behavior කොහොමද? inputs use කරලා අපිට එන output එක. ඒකේ behavior කොහොමද? And the last one is when we use inputs, when we use outputs, how your what behave? What behavior? What is this? Using your first behavior. මෙන්න මේ තුන දන්නවනම් ළමයි මේ පාඩම ඉගෙන ගන්න හරිය ලේසියි. Because in short run how your inputs, the inputs you use would be different. In short run how you use your outputs would be different, and how the outputs behave would be different. And also in short run how your cost would behave will also be different from long run. මෙන්න මේ ටික තමයි අපි ඉස්සරහට කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. දිගටම කතා කරන්නේ ඒකයි. Right? So this is the final kind of a summary where we going to make, but මේක මම චුට්ටක් clear කරගෙන පොඩ්ඩක් දිගට explain කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ we'll come back to this point and keep these things in your mind. අමතක කරන්න එපා. You can define and you can identify whether this is short run or long run based on three aspects. Right? Based on what? How much? Based on three aspects. First one is using your inputs. Second one is using your output and its behavior. ඒක output එකේ behavior එක ළමයි. ඒක අඩු වෙනවද වැඩි වෙනවද? අඩු වෙලා වැඩි වෙනවද? වැඩි වෙලා අඩු වෙනවද? Like that. And the last one is how your cost would behave. Right? These are the three main ways or three main aspects an economist or else anyone can assess whether this is a short run production process or else a long run production process. Right? I hope it's clear. අර මේක මතක තියාගන්න. මම දන්නවා මේක උගන්වලා නෑ ගොඩක් අය. ඉගෙන ගන්නෙත් නෑ. මේක ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙන්නේ මෙහෙම නෙවෙයි. right? ඉගෙන ගත්තම අද short run කිව්වා ඉගෙන ගියා. ආයෙ පස්සේ යන long run එකට ආයෙ කොහෙද උගර ගන්නවා. But ඇයි මේක මෙහෙම ඉගෙන ගන්න කියලා you need to know. Because it is a way or else it's an aspect. It is an aspect which can be used to differentiate these two concepts. Right? Okay. As I told you, මම මේ එකින් එක ගන්නවා. Right? I'll be taking one by one and I'll be explaining. ඊට පස්සේ අපි අන්තිමටම by the end of the day අපි ආයෙ මේක එක short note එකකට ගමු. So it would be helpful for anyone. Right? Okay. හරි මට දැන් කියන්න බලන්න how to identify whether this is short run or long run based on your input behavior. කියන්න බලන්න chat box එකේ දාන්න බලන්න ළමයි හොඳ ළමයි ටික වයින්. Yes. How to differentiate, how to identify whether this is short run or long run based on your input behavior. Right? Based on the inputs used, we have two main ways or two main what we call these processes. Short run and long run. Right, Hari. Good ළමයි. දැන් ඉතින් මේක ඉතින් දන්න දෙයක් නේ. මේක ඉතින් මම හැමදාම මේ හැමෝම ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙන දෙයක් නේ. හරි. හරිම ලේසි, right? Right, so. Right. Okay. So it is not vice versa. It can't be vice versa. I'll explain you the process, right? So short run, right? Short run. What do you mean by short run is what we need first we need to know is based on inputs. What are the inputs we have? Right? We basically have two main type of inputs. Two main types of inputs as you always have said. Yes, we have two main as either it can be variable or else the constant. or else we can call this one as fixed as well. Right? So these are two main type of inputs. Now, when we use these two inputs, in short run, right? In short run, we call this one as what? In short run, we call the output which is in the short run production process would be output of the short run production process would be a function of, right? Would be a function of, right? Yes or no? Is it variable or fixed? Both or else only variable? Yes. Is output of short run is a function of both variable inputs and fixed inputs. Right? So this is fixed inputs. Right? I can move it around, go to right? So now we can make it a little bit more precise. Quantity in short run is a function of, right? Variable as a variable inputs, I'll be using labor, and fixed input I'll be using as kick. Now tell me, is this right? Variable I have used labor, fixed I have used capital. Is this right? Yes or no? Yes. Yes or no? And people who say no, why it is no? People who say yes, I think it's obvious, but people who say no, why it is no? Why no? Yes. It have to be, something have to be fixed, right? Not all the time you can call capital is fixed. You have to make something fixed. How to make it fixed? You need to put a little dash like this, which makes you fixed. Right? No, with me. You need to include capital, right? You need to include capital because it's fixed, but you need to include it as fixed. Right? Make a demo, taking care of fixed. Or if you write it as is a function of L, right? This is wrong. Right? You can't write like this. You have to write include K, but you need to include capital. You have to be fixed. Definitely has to be fixed. Okay, part is very mandatory. Keep this in your mind. It's very mandatory. Make a TN mode. Now my second question. Is this right? Yes or no? Is this right? Again, people who say no, why it is no? People who say yes, something obvious, but people who say no, why it is no? I need the answer. Why you say it's no? Why it is no? Okay, I'm getting answers like labor is variable. Who says so labor is variable? Mona loke kawuda kiyala tinne? Mona economists kiyala tinne me loke labor every time labor needs to be variable. Kawuda kiyawa labor is variable kiyala? I me loke variable enna pulana labor vitarada? A simple question. Can't it be a machine can be variable? A capital, for an example, Coca-Cola machine, and practical example like when it comes to Coca-Cola, right? 90% of their process is automated, right? 90% of their process is automated. එතන ඉන්නේ කවුද? අර බටන් එක ඔන් කරන එක තමයි ඉන්නේ. දැන් ඔයාට මැෂින් එකක් ගේනවා. ඒකෙත් Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola මේ හදන්නේ. අර මැෂින් එකම බොටල් කරනවා, බුස් කරලා පිඹිනවා, වතුර ටික දානවා, like same thing would happen. And you are there. Your job is ideally to what? Switch on the machine, right? So can't you do that? So one labor, but now Coca-Cola, the capital would be changing. Can't this happen? Right? Don't be curate with this box telling that labor is variable all the time. ලෝකේ practically එහෙම කතන්දර නැහැ. ඉස්සර ඇඩම්ස්මිත් එක කාලේ නම් එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැති. ඒ කාලේ machines තිබ්බේ කොට. But in reality, in modern context, right, even capital can be variable, keeping labor constant. And ඔයා කොහොමද කියන්නේ capital වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. You know, long run එකේදී you change capital, right? Capital can be changing. Keeping labor is constant. The logic is, in short run, at least one variable is fixed. ඒකේ කොහෙවත් කියලා නැහැ that variable need to be capital all the time. So learn economics in the right manner, right? Always argue. Don't cut apart and write, right? I hope it's clear. So even this is right. Now where are we at? Why? Make it මොකක්ද දැන් fixed එක labor variable එක capital. In practice, in reality, you can have this one. But the concern is Sri Lankan context එකදී මේක ලගිනම් මෙන්න ලේසියි. අපේ මිනිස්සුන්ට කිසිම දෙයක් කරන්න බෑනේ. ඒකෙන් හින්දායි අපි මේක ලියන්නේ. right? ඔයාලා යුනිවර්සිටි ගියාම ඔයාලා ගණන් හදනවා මේක ගේම දාලා. When you go into universities, you would do it. So don't say that this is wrong. Now මේක හිතන්න එපා වැරදි කියලා. හරිද? The only logic is at least one factor need to be fixed. That factor can be the capital or else it can be labor also. Right. This is this short run perspective. Now let's get into the long run perspective. Right? Okay. Now in here it is again the same way. I will write it. Output in long run is equal to, as a function of, what is the blank we need to include? Variable fixed. Variable fixed or only variable, only fixed? What do we really need to include? Yes, it have to be variable. Is this right? Yes or no? Is this Is this right? Yes or no? Right. Okay, the next one. Is this right? Is this right? And people who say no, again tell me why it is no. People who say no, why don't you tell me why it is not no? මොකද ආගියු කරන්න අපි මොලේ අර ටික මකර මලකටේ කැඩෙන්නම ආගියු කරලා කියන්නේ. Why it is no? Why it is no? Actually, this is also right. Why? There can be production process where only labor is required. Right? I'll tell you a simple example. Right? ඔයාලා දැකලා තියෙනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. YouTube එකේ එහෙම තියෙනවා. මම දන්නේ Bangkok Thailand එකේ අමුතු ඩයල් එකක්. පොඩි නිකන් අර ටී-ෂර්ට්ස් උත් නැතුනේ වැද්ද වගේ ඉන්න වැද්ද නෙමෙයි සාමාන්‍ය කුල්ල වගේ පොඩි කෝටු කැල්ලක් අරගෙන නැත්නම් අතින් අර මෙහෙම කර මේ කොටන ස්විමින් pool හදනවා, ගෙවල් හදනවා, bath tub හදනවා. Have you seen that YouTube guy? Right? Who do this? So ideally that person is not using any sort of an capital. Machine එකම use කරන්නේ නැහැ. කිසිම දෙයක් use කරන්නේ නැහැ. He only uses himself, right? එයාම තමයි අතින් කොපලා කොටලා වලවල් හරන අතින්ම තමයි හැමදේම කරන්නේ. So you can have this, but in practice, in practical reality, චුට්ටක් අමාරුයි. Right? චුට්ටක් අමාරුයි මේක කරන්න without having capital. ඒකයි අපි වැඩි මේක use කරන්නේ නැත්තේ, but this can happen. නා මේක happen වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right. So in a simple nutshell, this is the easiest way and the easiest way for us to understand whether it's short run or long run. The basis we use is inputs. Right. I'll give you 1 minute. If you need to copy down, just copy down, and we'll be moving into the output approach. චුට්ටක් වෙලා යනවා ඒ වලට හින්දා. ඉක්මනට copy කරගන්න. If you want, the screenshot එකක් ගහගන්න. Right? Nice. I'll be wiping this one off. So the next one is the output behavior. Right. Now tell me, based on the output behavior, right? In short run, how can we explain the output behavior in short run? How can we explain the output behavior in short run? How? What is the logic? What is the concern? Right? Yes. What is the logic? What is the concern? What is the concept behind how to identify, right? How to identify whether this is short run or long run based on your output behavior. क्या ना पढ़ला मैं? को पार्डन कर लेती नहीं देंगा? Yes. Anyone other than my usual class kids? Theory class के इन्हें जानित ना मैं क्या ना पढ़? Anyone? What is the logic? What is the base? Or else what is the concept? Or else what is the law which determines the output behavior of short run? Thank you, क्या ना बड़ा? Yes, good luck. Then say no name. So yes, good. Output behavior in short run is explained by what? Law of diminishing marginal returns. Right. Okay. Now I need to know one thing. Law of diminishing returns and law of diminishing marginal returns. Is it same or not? මේක සමානයිද නැද්ද? Law of diminishing marginal returns and law of diminishing returns. Is it same or not? Well, now clear cut crystal clear when defining these concepts. Okay, coming back again, people who say no, what's the main difference? What's the difference between it to be different? What's different? What's the difference, Ramai? So basically, මතක තියාගන්න these two concepts are same, right? Exam right? Exam no. Right? Diminishing returns and diminishing marginal returns always represent the same meaning, right? Same meaning, same thing, right? Taking the main. මේකට වෙන definition එකක් ලියන්න ගිහිල්ලා වෙන graph එකක් අදින්න ගිහිල්ලා ලියලා එහෙම කරන්න එපා. මේක වචනේ marginal නැහැ. right? මේකේ marginal කියලා word එක නැහැ. But the law of diminishing marginal returns and law of diminishing returns explain the same scenario, right? ඒකින්ද කොයි වෙලෙකවත් හිතන්න එපා මේක වෙන concept එකක් කියලා. මේ concept එකයි මේක දෙකම එකයි. හැබැයි අර marginal කියන word එක නැති වුණාට එකම logic එක එකම law එක තමයි explain කරන්නේ. How it happens, right? හරි. Then what we need to know is you need to know to define what you mean by law of diminishing marginal returns or as law of diminishing returns, right? अब මේක දැන් අමතක කරමු diminishing returns. Exam එකේදී අහුවොත් this is the right answer. Most right answer is this is the most right answer. Again, I would love to see you guys writing answers like this. මේක ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් වඩාත් හොඳයි. Now, what do you mean by law of diminishing marginal returns කියන කලින් මට කියන්න what is the output behavior in long run? දැන් මම පාඩම උගන්වන්න ඕනේ නැහැ මම differences තාමන උගන්වන්න ඕන ඔක්කොම recap කරන්න. Tell me what is the output behavior in long run? Yes, it is what? It is law of returns to scale. Right? So මේ දෙක තමයි අපි differentiate කරලා අදින්න යන්නේ. Right. දැන් මට කියන්න what do you mean by law of diminishing marginal returns? Right? Law of diminishing marginal returns කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? I gave you a couple of minutes හරි definition එක ලියන්න. හරි definition එකක්. මේ ලෝභකමට කම්මැලිකමට බාගිර නෙමෙයි. හරියටම definition එක ලියන්න. Law of diminishing marginal returns definition එක හරියටම ලියන්න. Put in the chat box. Let's see who write the perfect answer. Most perfect answer. දැන් ඕන exam එකේදී අහලා තියෙනවා. I need you to write the answer. Perfect answer. Yes, what's the most perfect answer? I'm expecting answers. Hard definition law of diminishing marginal returns. හරියටම ලියන්න ඕනේ. අකුරු කරන්නේ නැතුව වචන අඩු කරන්නේ නැතුව මම දන්නවාකට හිතාගෙන නෙමෙයි හරියට ලියන්න. Okay, Divishani, good answer, good answer. And Dinesh, good answer. Shivangi, good. Good. Saubhagya, good. Santosh, good. Dinuka, your answer need to be a little bit more precise, right? But it will be a little more precise. Kevin, good. Sarushi, good. Good. Majority of your answers are pretty much the same, right? Hari. What I would write is the most important words. The most important word. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයාලට ඒ words එක use කරලා grammatically දාලා උත්තරේ ලියන්න පුළුවන්. First thing is diminishing margin returns. First thing what you down chat box again, what is really decreasing? Is it only marginal return or else marginal product or else what? What is really decreasing? Yes, good. Everyone good. Tarushi, good. Okay. I'm getting answers, but little who is this? Can't see his name. Manusha, right? Yes. Okay. I'm getting answers. I'm getting confusion. So let me clarify. Hari. What wala kiyanne mokada uttara dekada, right? So Hari, what okkoma kiyan logic එක Hari. So you increase what? You increase your variable inputs, right? Increase variable inputs. Increase variable inputs, keeping fixed input constant. Sorry, then what would happen? Something increase, something and something increase and decrease after a certain point. Right. Hari, what is this blank about? What need to come in these two blanks? Is it MP, AP, TP? What is the two products? Two blanks which is come. Anna, Hari, good. It always have to be what? 6 inputs. What would happen? Your MP and AP will increase and decrease after a certain point. Can this be TP? Can this be TP? Is this TP? Right? Is law of diminishing margin returns talk about something called TP? Are we focus on TP in law of diminishing margin returns? Or else AP and MP and AP, but also TP then? That's the yes or no. TP is there or not? In law of diminishing margin returns, do we discuss on TP? Okay, we'll draw the diagram for a better understanding. Right? Now what would happen? Right? What would happen? දැන් මම ඩයග්‍රෑම් එක අඳිනවා මට කියන්න ඩයග්‍රෑම් එක හරිද වැරදිද කියලා. හරි. Right. Is this diagram right or wrong? And people who say wrong, why don't you tell me why it is wrong? Where it is wrong? This is TP. TP has been maximized. MP, AP has been minimized. Is this wrong or right? Why people who say wrong? What am right? They right. I'm right. Wrong. Justification. Why this is wrong? I make a very clear. මට කවුරුත් තම solid එකක් කියන්න බෑ. ඇයි මේක වැරදි? right? කවුද මට අපි නෝ කිව්වේ? තිවංගි කිව්වා. තිවංගි උත්තරයක් කියන්න තියෙනවා. හරි. I justification. Saubhagya has said strong. Right? What is the justification, Saubhagya? Why we call this one as strong? Tivangi has made her judgment. මේක වැරදි මේකයි කියලා මම කරගන්නවා. Maximum point of MP intersects TP. Okay. Right. Okay. So right. Okay. She has a very valid question. Now the question comes, argument comes. Right. The maximum point of MP needs to be intersected by TP. Is there some kind of logic like that or not? Yes or no? Right now, I can about maximum point of MP, right? Maximum point of MP need to be intersected by TP. Is there logic like that? Anyone? Yes or no? After कोहे निकलने का ये वाला खाता बस मेरे का मेथडीम में क्या करने होने के? हाँ? දැන් ඔබ තමයි නම මතක තියාගන්න එක්සෑම් එකේදී ඕක තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ. දැන් අන්ට ආගියු කරලා කියන්න බලන්න. ඔයාලා දන්න විදියට මට කියන්න බලන්න. දැන් ඕක තමයි දැන් අපි මේක දන්නවා right? මේක ඉන්ටර්සෙක්ට් කරනවා හරි. But my concern is does this come into play? Yes or no? Right. මතක තියාගන්න ළමයි. අපිට මෙහෙම කතාවක් නැහැ. හරිද? We don't have a logic like that. Right? Necessarily that this need to be intersected by this. එහෙම එකක් නැහැ. මොකද කියන්නේ? We have mother there. When you draw the graph, but and one more important thing. Tivangi is you that you have made the judgment, right? Yes. I love your logic and justification, but keep this thing in your mind. කවදාවත් අපි ඒ කියන්නේ theoretically ඔයාලට ඉස්කෝලේ උගන්වද්දී හරිය ක්ලාස් වල උගන්වද්දී උගන්වලා ඇති මේ දෙක වෙනම. ඉස්සලා TP එක මෙහෙම කරා. ගෙනියනදී මේ වගේ කතාවක්. TP goes maximum, it goes like this. Right? You might have learned something like this at school or else at anywhere else, right? ඒකෙන් කියන්නේ නැහැ හැමදාම මේක මෙහෙම දිනනවා මේක. It's how you draw your illustration because look, I have used TP, MP and AP in one diagram and I can make this one happen. මේක කිසි වැරද්දක් නැහැ. මේක මෙහෙමම වෙන්න ඕන කියලා කියන්නේ නැහැ. හරිද? මේක ඉස්කෝලේ ඉගෙන ගත්තද මෙහෙම? There is no such rule, hard and fast rule that you need to draw it like this all the time. You can get it at one diagram like this also. Got it? Right. So when you draw this diagram, these are the most important parts. I highlight karna matra diagram. First thing is when your MP becomes 0, your TP need to be maximized. This is the first important point. Second one is the both get decreased, but mother diagram then MAP is maximized, MP intersects. Right? මෙන්න මේ logic එක තමයි ළමයි මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. diagram එක අඳිද්දි මේ ටික මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. අනිත් එක තමයි මෙන්න මේ කතන්දරේ. It have to go like this. It can never be going like this. It can never go like this. මෙහෙම යන්න බෑ කොයි වෙලෙකවත්. It always have to go like this. It always have to go like this. And all the curves need to start with 0. That is the last point. So this is simply what is your law of diminishing marginal returns. Exam එකේදී මේක තමයි අන්තිමට ළඟ වෙන්න ඕනේ. එකපාර අන්තිමට පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? මේවා තමයි key points. මොනවද key points? First one, MP, TP gets maximized, MP becomes 0. Right? Next one, you can even write this one also. මම පල්ලෙන් කියන්න. Can you see නෝනේ? Yeah, write it for your better understanding. The most important point, your TP maximized, MP becomes 0. Right in here. Right? First point is your TP maximized, TP max, when MP becomes 0. This is the first one. Second one, AP max. AP maximum is MP intersects. The last one is what? All curves start with 0. Right? It starts with origin of 0. Right? What you need to know when you draw this graph. And the other thing is like make it an intersection. MP and AP, there is only one intersection. Only one. Again, make a intersection. Right? These are the mandatory things you need to know why this happens. Right? Now, the last important part, which is right. The last part is none other than the reasons. Now tell me why this happened. Why law of diminishing marginal returns come into play? Why law of diminishing marginal returns happen? Why this why this happens? What's the reason behind that? Right? Tell me, what is the reason? What are the reasons? What's the main reason? Why this happens? Why this happens? We have two reasons. What are they? No, Akira, no. What are the two main reasons why this happens? Practically make a short run. Why this practical happen in the world? Why make a vertical advance? Why make advance? No. Not because of it has in diminishing margin returns. Yes, why diminishing margin returns? Why No, not all the not because all the products are homogeneous. It doesn't make sense, right? And fixed inputs are constant. Yes, it makes some little body concern, but it is not simply because of its became constant. Variable input increase. Yes, it's increasing tamai, but increase why this happen? How can you answer? How yes, use of resources specific reason. You can call this one with short variable inputs and fixed inputs. Yes, it's simply because we use variable inputs and fixed inputs, but what's the reason? මේක යුනිවර්සිටි වල නම් තමයි මරුවට කතාවක් වෙනවා රයිට් මෙතන පොඩි ළමයි ඉන්න මම කියන්නේ පට්ට කතාවක් යුනිවර්සිටි එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරනවා to explain this scenario right මාර කතාවක් කියනවා ඒක ජීවිතේ කිව්වම අමතක වෙන්නේ but no not because MP and AP increase I know ඒක තමයි law of diminishing කියන්නේ now my question is why this happens හරි හොඳට අහගන්න why this happens in a simple nutshell ළමයි හිතන්න මේක කුඹුරක්. මම හැමෝටම මම උගන්වන්න ගන්නේ මේ logic එක. මේක හරි lazy. හරිද? මේක කුඹුරක් කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ I'll use this phrase. Hope you can see this one. Right. This is your paddy field. හරිද? දැන් ඔයා මේකේ කුඹුරේ කොටවන්න තමයි යන්නේ. So this is the person and this is we call it as labor. And we have the other thing. Right? So this is the tractor, which is your capital. Right? So now you are අපි දැන් මොන short run එකේ කුඹුර හාන්න යන්නේ. අපි assume කරන products එක factors එක මොකද්ද? Labor and capital. Now what happened? Right? Then අපි දන්න කුඹුර හාති machine tractor එක බර කරලා යනවා. Right? What would happen? This person would use this machine. Now the second time, now what would happen? Look, you are here at 0, nothing would happen. You increase your labor, average production, marginal production, total production increase. Now you increase. Yes, Santosh, that is your point, but you have to be very specific. So second, now you have two labor. Right? One labor, two labor, labor 1 and labor 2. But still now you have only one capital. Now what would happen? Then මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙයා පැදලා මෙයාට මහන්සිනේ. Then මොන දෙවෙනි එක කරා බලන්න. කමන්නේ නෑනේ. Look, marginal productivity increase. Why? අර පැදලා මහන්සුනාම the second person will come on board. Average product එකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. Then total product එකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. Then තව කියන්නේ. දැන් ඔන්න දැන් දවල් වරු වැඩ කළේ ඉතින් දැන් රෑ shift එකක් වැඩ කරනවා. ඔන්න රෑට වැඩ කරනවා. Right? ඔන්න රෑත් අපි session slots දෙකක් ගත්තොත් again business starts to increase. ඔන්න දැන් midnight to වැඩ කරනවා. Now තව කෙනෙක් වැඩි කරනවා. ඔන්න දැන් ඊළඟ එක්කෙනා එනවා. labor 5 come. Now what happened? දැන් අවුෙන්ද උදේට වැඩ කරන එකනේ තියෙනවා. අපි හිතුව මෙයා වැඩ කරන්නේ 8 to 12. මෙයා වැඩ කරනවා අපි හිතමු 6කට ගමු. මෙයා 6 to 12, right? මෙයා 12 to 6, මෙයා ආයේ 6 to 12, මෙයා 12 to 6. දැන් මෙයා ආපුවම right? මෙයාට වැඩ කරන්න වෙලාවක් නැහැ. දැන් මෙයා මොකද කරන්නේ? මෙයා කියනවා ඔයා එනම් පැය 4ක් විතර වැඩ කරන්න මම පැය 2ක් විතර වැඩ කරන්න කියලා. දැන් ඔයා හරි ඕකේ අපි කමන්නේ හා කියලා තවත් ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක පොඩ්ඩක් පියවෙයි. Now again more and more people will start but your capital is not increased. දැන් වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? මුන් දෙලා ජෝඩු වෙනවා right? එකතු වෙලා මොකද කරන්නේ? අර දැන් මේ පිරිමි කට්ටිය කියලා ගන්නකො but still they will start to අර ජනාධිපතියේ ලයිව් එකක් ඇවිල්ලා දෙන්න chat එක අර ජනාධිපතියේ ලයිව් එකක් ආව RX වැඩි ජනාධිපතියන්ට අපි මේ විහිළුවක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ හැමදාම ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වා අපි මේව කරා අර වගද අපි යුද්ධ දින්න කියලා ගියා කියලා දැන් මේක start to chat. Hey මුන්දර නිකන් ඉන්නේ. They have nothing to do. Why? You have only a limited amount of fixed capital. So due to this now වැඩි කරන හැම එක්කෙනාම බොරුවක් කරන්නේ වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. Your MT will start to decrease but still your TP would start to increase. අයි දැන් මෙයා පැය දෙකක වැඩ කරා කුඹුර වැඩ කරා. දැන් මෙයාලා මොනාරි කරනවා නිකන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ හැමදාම. But majority of the time they would be what? Now tell me. Whether the variable inputs and whether the variable inputs are now I'm writing two answers. Right? So blank, utilize, and the last one is right. Why don't you give me the answer? Now focus on the practically. One part is there who is variable input, and we have fixed inputs. Now tell me. I'll give you two words. First one is ekak underutilized, anith එක overutilized. Which factor is underutilized and which factor is overutilized? මේ කතාවේදී මෙන්න ඒකයි. Right? Diminishing margin returns in due to these two reasons. මට කියන්නේ which factor is overutilized and which factor is underutilized. මොන factor එකද අඩුවෙන් utilize කරන්නේ? මොන factor එකද ඕනට වඩා utilize කරන්නේ? Good lamai, very good. දැන් වට තේරෙනව නේද? Why this happen? මේක practically වෙන්නේ ඇයි කියලා. නැත්තම් කවුරුත් අහන්න බෑ. ඇයි මේක මෙහෙම වෙන්නේ? Why this happen? This happens due to this scenario. Why? Yes, good. Huh? Variable inputs are unregularized. අයිද මේ නිවුස් නිකන් ඉන්නේ. ජනාධිපතිතුමා බැල බැල ඉන්නවා. ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් right ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් බැල බැල ඉන්නවා. නැත්තම් පියුමි හන්සමානි තමයි හරියට ලයිව් ආවේ ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් ලයිව් වෙන්න බැරි වුණා කියලා. right කියෝ ඉන්නවා. So six inputs are what? Overutilized. University එකේ මේව explain කරන්න අපිට assume this as guys and this as a girl. එහෙම තමයි explain කරන්නේ. ඕක කතාව ඊට පස්සේ ඔක දන්නවනේ කට්ටිය කියන. Right? So these are the reasons why this happened. Now at your exam එකේදී ළමයි if they ask you about diminishing marginal returns, right? You need to write the definition, you need to write and you need to draw your graph, and if time permits, I would love to see you writing these two reasons as well. Right? මේක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ලියන්න. ලියන එකෙන් additional advantage එකක් ඔයාලට එනවා. මොකද ගොඩක් අය මේක දන්නේ නැහැ. මේක දන්නේ නැහැ කියන්නේ මේක තමයි ඇත්ත reason එක කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ. මේක කොහෙන් හරි ඉගෙනගෙන නැති. හැබැයි මේක how it relates with this one, most of you don't know. දැන් ඔයාලා ගණන් හිතෙත් යන සමහර අය. ඒකින්ද අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේක ලියන්න. මේක අමාරු දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. මේක මතක් වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මේක මතක තියාගන්න. මේකත් මතක් වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මම කිව්වේ ගෑනු ළමයි පිරිමි ළමයි ස්ටෝරි එක දාගෙන මතක් කරගන්න. මම ඒක විතර කියන්නේ but just sitting achieve කරගන්න. This is all about your short term output behavior. අපි දැන් input behavior කතා කරනවා output behavior එක තමයි කතා කරන්නේ. Now we'll jump directly into long run output behavior. So long run output behavior we discussed it as what? Law of return to scale. Yes, starting on, why don't you put in the chat box what do you mean by law of return to scale? හරියට කියන්න definition එක හරියටම කියන්න. මම එතකම් මේක මෙතන පන්නන්න කියනවා ඔයාලා හරිය definition එක දාන්න ඕනේ හරිද? ඉතින් yes, what do you mean by law of return to scale ළමයි? good ළමයි. යා definitions එක නම් හොඳයි. Yes, nice. Good. Nice. Takashi, you have to double check your answer. Product lamai here again in the proportion of output and proportion of input. And a proportion of output and proportion of input can the behavior, how it behaves and all. Define what is really right? Yes. Good. Well, we didn't have all the answers, but let me find you it much more helpful way. First thing is you need to include these two phenomena. Right? You increase variable inputs and you increase fixed inputs also. In fact, these two represent the short run and these two represent the long run. Now, what does really happen? Now you need to know what do you mean by law of returns to scale. So when these two increase, as a firm, you would receive a blank benefit. Blank benefit receives ideally, it says the benefit received due to increase in scale of the production. Production scale like a you get a benefit. Right? That is called returns to scale. And this shows right. Okay. So a valid question has asked, what about whether do we have fixed inputs? Right? Whether do we have fixed inputs? So that's why I have mentioned it as increase your fixed inputs just to showcase the difference. Demand difference method constant method increase fixed. So when you increase fixed inputs, it automatically becomes a variable input. When you fix this one, this automatically becomes a variable input. Right? So when you increase fixed inputs, it automatically becomes a variable input. But I just wanted to give you this difference. That's why I have used the word as increased fixed inputs. Drive away when come back to that point. So when you change fixed, it automatically becomes variable. It's common logic. But in here, this is it's fixed, but in here it's changing. Fixed is changing. Long run, right? I hope it's clear. So what do you mean by law of return to scale, right? Return to scale. Due to your scale increment, you get a return. Return is a benefit. Now tell me, your return to scale means the real benefit received or else the financial benefit. Yes, it is the real benefit or else the financial benefit. Anna hari. Right? So this is ideal this is the real benefit. Then if this is financial benefit, what is this law all about? Law of returns to scale. The financial what is this law about? Financial benefit received due to the increase in the scale of the production. What is that concept all about? And what is the difference between these two concepts even? Look at the concept. If you put this word as financial benefit. What is the concept? No, not law of supply. When you put it as financial benefits, connect dots connect make a pattern part lazy. Good. When you put this one as financial benefits, that is what? I need answers from others also. Not law of demand, no. Right? When low කියන වචනත් එක අල්ලගන්න එපා low නෙවෙයි. මේකට අපි නිකන් සාමාන්‍ය කියන වචනක් කියනවා. මේ අස්සෙමයි එන්නේ long run එක අස්සෙමයි එන්නේ. The difference is law of returns to scale is the real benefit. Law of blah 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 scale, that is the financial benefit. It also have the word scale. තවත් පොඩක් ලේසි කරා. මොන scale ද? Scale කියන්නේ financial benefit එක. Which scale? ඔලමයි. Anna hari. Good. If it is financial benefit, it is law of economies of scale. Economies of scale. Right? It's also law. Economies of scale is law. But it is still it's a law. Right? So if we put it as a financial benefit, financial benefit. Cost reduction. Cost benefit. But output that is why we call it as a real benefit. Output cost financial benefit. That is how these dots are connected. Right. Coming back to the point. Real benefit received due to the increasing in the scale of the production. That's the operation. You get real benefits. Output now tell me, it shows the mono change. Is it a proportional change or is it an absolute change? What is the change? Proportional input proportion output proportion. What do we say in here? Yes, this is the proportional change. මේවා තමයි මතක තියාගන්න නේද මේවා මතක තියාගන්න ළමයි එක්සෑම් එකේදී කොහෙන් හරි කමන්නේ පටලවලා මේ වචන ටික දාන්න හැන්නේ that is at the end of the day that is your exam grammar නෙමෙයි මේ වචන ටික include කරලා you would get marks. Now let's draw the diagram. ඉදත් නෑ I'll try to keep the diagram very short so that everyone this is variable input, this is the total production. Right. Now I'll draw the diagram, tell me whether this is right or wrong. This is right or wrong? හරිද වැරදිද මේ? බය වෙන්න එපා උත්තර කියන්න හරිද? I'll draw another curve. ඊට පස්සේ මට කියන්න මොකද හරි curve එක කියලා. Which is like TP1 or TP2? It is right. TP1 or TP2. Alamai? I'm getting both. Right? The right answer or the right diagram is TP1. Why TP1 lamai? In returns to scale, you need to identify three main stages. Right? Stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Right? In stage 1, look, right? So what has happened in here? Proportionate change in inputs, right? Proportionate changing inputs, right? What again? Proportionate changing outputs. Where input, radical input take up where the output take a good what this mark need to come in between? Your change in your proportional input change. So proportionate inputs, the amount of inputs we have used, and the amount of proportionate output we have used. Whether this is greater than like this or less than like this. First stage where input use output output market कोई बात नहीं ना मेहम देनी हो ना मेहम इनपुट पार्ट का बैठिया इनपुट थी ना मेरे एक्टिव से केला मैं मेरी ना तो इनपुट से क्या बनाना तो प्रैक्टिकली बनाना निकाल देखकर एस्टिमेट में बनाना इनपुट निकाल मैं क्या चीज़ है इनपुट से look at the outputs when outputs very near output take very near output very near input output very near input take chutta output take good so ideally the mark needs to come like this මේක තේරුම් නැති කටින් වල මට කියන්න මේක තේරුම් නැත්නම් කියන්න I'll re-explain. Look, the input you have include this amount of input, right? You have only include this amount of input, but by including this amount of input, you have achieved a wide output. What the input use karna mai, but output take good up right? What the input use karna output take good up. So this is the first stage. So we call this stage as what? What do we call this one as? Yes, this is increasing return to scale. Right? This is increasing return to scale. Now the second one. Now second one, what is happening? Percentage inputs and percentage outputs. So what is ideally need to come in here? From these three, yes, it is very simple. It is equal, right? This height and this height always look a little bit more equal, right? We call this one as what? Or I mean, I'm going to look at the as constant returns to scale. And the last one is stage 3. Stage 3, which represents percentage input, change of output. What the marks need to come into? This is for this. Yes, it has to be something like this. We call this one as decreasing returns to scale. Right? This is all about returns to scale. This is what you need to know. The benefits, it's the real benefit you receive due to the capacity increment. කොච්චර මොනවා කිව්වත් තමයි production එක අඩු වැඩි වෙනවා. production එක වැඩි වෙගෙන යනවා. That's why we call it as a real benefit. You receive a benefit. But එන්න හම්බෙන benefit එක අඩු වෙනවා. That is a proportional change, right? That is I didn't get the point what you mentioned. The isn't showed by the ATC curve. I didn't get you what you mean by ATC curve. Do you mean Mati Yasser again the answer? So this is concerned. Do you mean something like this? No. You can't reflect law of returns to scale in a cost curve. Why? Can you reflect law of returns to scale in a cost curve? Can you reflect or not? Can you use law of, can you use the average total cost curve to reflect law of returns to scale? Pulwan the barrier. I need a solid answer whether it's yes or no. But all hitana de kiyanna passe mage explain karanna hariyata mokadda me logic එක කියලා. Right, okay, I'm getting both yes or no. Hari. Now let's come back to one point. Right? You could remember, Amai, we had 3 aspects, right? 3 aspects to reflect whether it's a short run or long run. First one was what? The input behavior. Next one was what? Output behavior. And the last one is your cost behavior, right? Etakota law of returns to scale like oya cost curve එකකින් පෙන්නුවොත් how do you explain law of economies of scale? My concern is like that. අපේ ස්කෝල් වල මේ ගොඩාක් කරන මෝඩකම නෙමෙයි වැරදි. ඉතින් පොඩි වැරදි. අපි කියන්නේ රියල් ඉකොනොමික්ස් දන්නේ නැහැ. කොහෙන් හරි අල්ල ගන්නවා දෙයක් ඒක උගන්වනවා. ඒක ලේසියට කරලා දෙනවා. but හරියට solidly තියාගන්නේ ගානට බෙදා ගන්න. Why we learn 2 different concepts as law of returns to scale and law of economies of scale if we can explain both the curves, both the concepts in one simple ATC curve. එහෙම පෙන්නන්න ඕන නම් ඇයි අපි මේ concept දෙකක් විතර කරගන්නේ? Examiner might not ask you කවදාකවත් එහෙම ගියොත් the difference between law of returns to scale and law of economies of scale. ඔයාට කියන්නේ අපෝ මේක difference ගන්න මේ දෙක එකයිනේ කියලා. No, හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. ඔයාට කියන්න පුළුවන් you can make the argument law of returns to scale හින්දා තමයි law of economies of scale කියන්නේ. Yes. ඇත්ත කතාවක් කොහොමද ඔයාට ඊට පස්සේ කියන්නකො law of economies of scale එන්නේ ඇයි? Due to you use only variable inputs. මේ ඔක්කොම තමයි එකට එකක් interrelated. හැබැයි as a concept if you want to prove it, theoretically if you want to prove it, you have to oblige to economic theory. Law of returns to scale කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Your real benefit. අපේ cost curve එකකින් කවදාකවත් real benefit පෙන්වන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක පෙන්වන්නේ මොකද්ද? Financial benefit. Right? අර ලේසියට මමත් මේ දැකලා තියෙනවා. මමත් එනකන් තියෙනවා. right? මෙන්න මෙහෙම කරලා මේ පැත්ත economics of scale, මේ පැත්ත returns to scale, right? එහෙම පෙන්නනවා. Right? එහෙම ඒක that is not the real thing. That's a shortcut way to understand and shortcut way to learn stuff, but that is not the real economics, right? So the real thing, that's why we learn something called law of returns to scale separately, because returns to scale, law of diminishing margin returns කියන එක අපි cost curve එකේ නෙමෙයි පෙන්නන්නේ නැහැ නේද? අපි කොහොමද පෙන්නන්නේ? Law of diminishing margin returns පෙන්නන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි we have a strong relationship between අපි ඉස්සර කතා කරන්නේ ඒක between product curves and cost curves. ඒ කියන්නේ මම කියන්නේ මොකද? වැරදි නැහැ ඔයාලා කියන කතාව. හැබැයි ඇත්ත economics වල, real economics වල මේක aspects 3ක්. right? කවදාක්වත් හරිද මේ aspects 3 එකට දාලා අච්චාරු කරගන්න එපා. ලස්සන තුනක් විදිහට ක්ලාසිෆයි කරගන්න. ඉතින් එක්සෑම් එකේ මතක තියාගන්න law of returns of scale ඇහුවොත් economies of scale curve එක අඳින්න යන්න එපා. ඒක අඳින්න යන්න එපා. ඒක theoretically වැරදි. Logically හරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි theoretically වැරදි. I hope I made the answer very clear why we have two different concepts of returns of scale and economies of scale. Hari. I give you 1 minute if you want, make a screenshot or make any kind of a thing before I'm winding this off. I'm make a white කරන්න කලින් මේක ඕන දැන් ලියා ගන්න. Okay, returns of scale graph. What is really happening? We have in the returns of scale scenario, we have three main stages. How you clearly get the real benefit. What real benefit එක හම්බෙන stages තුනක් තියෙනවා. Real benefit එක හම්බෙන stages තුනක් තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? මේ stages තුනේදීම ඔයාලට benefit එක හම්බෙනවා. Why we call it as benefit එක හම්බෙනවා? Because look, your TP is still increasing. TP එක අඩු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒත් TP එක වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒකින්ද scale එක වැඩි වෙන්න ඔයාගේ TP එක අඩු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. වැඩි වෙගෙන යනවා. That is called law of returns to scale. So in the returns to scale graph, we have three stages. First stage, ඔයාලට පේන පොඩක් නිකන් හරිම steep level එකේදී we only use very limited amount of inputs, but you generate a higher proportion of output. A very limited amount of inputs and higher proportion of outputs. That is, the percentage of inputs is very low, where you generate the percentage of high outputs. And in the second stage, we call it as what? The constant returns to scale. What do you mean by constant returns to scale? The percentage of inputs you use and the percentage of output you use. Now I make a percentage, absolute values same. The percentage of inputs you use and the percentage of output you use would be equal. Percentage of inputs and percentage of output would be equal in the second stage. Last stage, your percentage of inputs, right? The percentage of inputs would be less, or rather, sorry, your percentage of inputs would be very high, but the percentage of output you generate, making me body height is very low. This is called the law of returns to scale. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ output එක වෙනස් වෙනවා එක විදියට. So මතක තියාගන්න law of returns to scale එකේ we have the relationship between inputs and output. But law of economies of scale එකේ things are different. Right? හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න මේ part එක. අපි වෙලාව තිබ්බොත් we will try to differentiate the difference between law of returns to scale and law of economies of scale also if time permits. Right? So මතක තියාගන්න this is input and output, but again the proportional change. Right? Now let me come back to the last point of the day, which is the cost behavior. You guys can understand what I say, right? I hope it is, because අපේ සාමාන්‍ය usual තමයි revision class එකේ වෙන්නේ මේ දේ තමයි. Revision class එකේදී මම questions කතා කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. මම ඉස්සර concept එක, logic එක, base එක, theory එක ඔයාලට ඕන කරන short notes. ඔයාලා short notes හදන්න නැහැ හරියම කම්මැලිනේ. short note එක මම හදනවා අඩුම ගානේ ඒකවත් copy කරගන්න. හරිද? And revision class එකේ මේක තමයි වෙන්නේ. So paper class එකේ we will be following up with the paper. I will be giving you the paper as usual and we will be discussing paper here and there. So what is මෙතන මට detail මේ process එකකට යන්න බෑ. දැන් මෙතන එක flow එකකට යනවානේ. paper class එකේදී flow එක එහෙමම යන්නේ නැහැ. But I will still be explaining you the scenarios. How to write the answer, how to make the key differentiations and all. ඒ අපි paper class එකේ තමයි කතා කරන්නේ. Right. Okay, so the last part for the day, that is your cost behavior. And the most important part. right? Cost behavior. I part a pain, right? So this is cost behavior. Right. Starting on, I have a question. Do we have a law, maybe a theory, to explain short-term cost behavior? Concept logic law of something, law of blah, law of diminishing concept to explain cost behavior. Concept short-term explain concept. And can we use the concept of law of diminishing margin returns as the short-term cost behavior logic concept? Can we use it as like that way? Right. Be very mindful. අපිට ඒක පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ ළමයි. අපිට ඒක law of diminishing margin වල කතාව පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ. හැබැයි අපි දන්නවා මොකද්ද? මේ ඔක්කොම නිකන් අර එක අම්මා තාත්තා කෙනෙක්ගේ ළමයි ටික වගේ. right? ඔක්කොම එකයි. වෙනසක් නෑ. හැබැයි ළමයි කිව්වම ඔක්කොම එකයි. හැබැයි ලොකු ළමයා පොඩි ළමයා අන්තිම ළමයා ගද්දි පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස්. right? අපිට ඔක්කොම එක පොතේ දාන්න බෑ. right? So that is what's the difference you need to know. හරි. Now my point, do we have a logic, a concept, or else law, something to explain short-term thing? Do we have anything like that way? Do we have anything for long run? What is there is for long run? What is the long run? What is the cost behavior? How to explain the cost behavior in long run? Yes, we have it here. We have law of economies of scale. Right. So idea in short term specifically we don't have, right? We don't have a logic, or else rather we call this one as we don't have this law. Law එකක් නැහැ short term. හැබැයි අපිට එක අපි පොඩි එක නිකන් අර economics එක school of thoughts තියෙනවනේ එක කට්ටිය හිතන විදිය. එකක් modern thought එකේ ඉන්න කට්ටිය ටිකක් short run එකේ cost curves වලට කියනවා U curves කියලා. right? සාමාන්‍ය මේ කියන වචන හරියට මේවා එක්සැම්පල් එකේ තියන්න එපා. මම මේ එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරන්න උදව් කරන්න ගන්නෙ. සාමාන්‍ය modern කට්ටිය කියනවා economics වලදී short term cost curves as U curves. right? ඔයාලා දන්නවා why it is called as U curves නා? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි කියන U curves කියලා. ඒක theory එකක් නැහැ. මොකද ඒකට theory එකක් කවුරුත් හොයාගෙනත් නැහැ. ඒක නමකුත් නැහැ. අපි නිකන් curves ටික ඉගෙන ගන්නවනේ. So හැබැයි දැන් කට්ටිය කියනවා දැන් අපි මේක හරියට ඉගෙන ගන්න ළමයි ටික කියනවා issue මේක කිසි වැඩක් නැහැනේ. හැමතැනම හැමෝටම තියෙන logic එක ගන්න ඕව එකක් but in here මෙතන විතරක් නෑ. So the modern people say, the modern economy say it's just U curves. Right? Short run curves have U curves. Now my question is, do we have U curves in law of economies of scale also? Do we have U curves? Yes or no? Right? Do we have U curves? දැන් මෙතන U curves තිබ්බොත් ළමයි මෙතන S තිබ්බොත් මේකයි මේකයි සමාන වෙනවනේ. right? ඒකෙන් මොකක්ද කියන්නේ මෙතන කට්ටියට. මෙතන කට්ටිය කියන no. ඔයාලට තියෙන U curves නේ. ඔයාලට තියෙන flat U curves. right? සමාන කරද්දී මේකට කියනවා basing curves කියලා. My basing curves base එකක් වගේ නේ තියෙන අපිට base එකක් වගේ නේ තියෙන්නේ. That is also a thing. But we don't have U curves in here. We have flat U curves. ඒ කියන්නේ මොකද? bottom එක flat, bottom flat. ඒව තමයි තියෙන්නේ. මේ වගේ modern economics එක අහලා. අපි දැන් කියන්නේ economics කරන කට්ටියත් අර පොඩ්ඩක් modern වෙනවනේ. right? පොඩ්ඩක් modern වෙලා චුට්ටක් දන්නේ නැද්ද? පොඩ්ඩක් rebrand කරලා revert කරලා පොඩ්ඩක් specific කරන්න හදනවා. So that is the which is many U curves. මොකද කවින්ද මෙතනද? right? In short run or long run, what do you specifically mean? It consists with many U curves. Long run, short run. Yeah, long run again we have many U curves, but එක curve එකකට තියෙන එක flat U curve එකයි තියෙන්නේ. right? So your point is right, but මම මේ කියන්නේ interpret කරන්න. දකින්න එළියෙන් දකින්න විදිය. ඒකට we have flat U curves. Okay, coming to the point. Now we need to draw the diagram. U-curve diagram. First we have okay, very good one. මෙතන දෙන්නලා මේ quantity ද එහෙමත් නැත්නම් inputs ද. ඔක තමයි පටල ගන්න ළමයි. මට කියන්නේ මෙතන දෙන්නේ quantity ද inputs ද. Tell me. Is it is quantity or else inputs? People who say it is quantity, people who say it is inputs. Yes, මතක තියාගන්න this have to be quantity. Inputs කතා කරන්නේ කොතනද? Inputs කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ මෙතන. මෙතන කතා කරන්නේ quantity. අපි law of diminishing marginal returns ඒව කතා කරද්දී we use inputs. But this is more or less this is outputs. So quantity. So we have one curve like this. What is this curve all about? මොකද මේ curve එක? And what is this curve is all about? මොකද මේ curve එක? Yes, this is your AFC. My simple question, can AFC tap this point? Can this go like this? Can this happen or not? Yes, this can't happen. I am winning because AFC ganna කොහොමද ළමයි? How do you identify AFC? AFC equals TFC divided by quantity. So all the time TFC would be some sort of a number, right? Number එකක් තියෙන්නේ කවදාවත් මේක බිඳුව වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Next we have to draw the U curves, a real U curves. This is ATC or else AC. This is ABC. Right. Now my simple question. What is the difference between these two curves? What is the difference between these two curves? May the difference එක මොකක්ද? Yes, this is your AFC. Right. My next question, can these two curves intersect each other? Yes, you can't have this intersection because AFC never becomes zero. Like intersect වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? This ideally have to be zero because ATC equals ABC plus AFC. So මේක equal වෙනවා කියන ළමයි this have to be zero. Right? This have to be zero. So never it becomes zero. Due to that, මේක කවදාවත් වදින්නේ නැහැ. The next one is your MC. Control reset right? So ideally your MC need to cut the bottom point, the most bottom points of right, the bottom points of ABC and ATC. Bottom of ABC and this one is the bottom of ATC. Now tell me, is this diagram right finally? And what mistakes are fine tune is this diagram accurate? How is the diagram? What's the if you have any issues, what is the issue we have? මොකක්ද ඉෂුව එක අපිට තියෙන්නේ? අලවයි proper issues තියෙනවද මේ diagram එක අවුල්ද වැරදිද? Yes, Dinesh, yes. What is happened with MC? What's the main concerns? උලමයි. දැන් no කියනවා නම් උත්තර ඉතින්. දැන් මෙහෙමයි. Tell me specifically why this is wrong then so that we can rectify this one. Why you call this is wrong? So as far I could see this is right. එහෙම ලොකු අවුලක් නෑ හරිද? එකම එක තියෙන්නේ MT ට තමයි killing වගේ තියෙනවා but පොඩ්ඩක් හරියටම බැලුවොත් එහෙම පොඩ්ඩක් හරි නිකන් having a slight increment right? ඒකට මේ diagram එක පොඩ්ඩක් අඳිද්දි manual error එකක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ but it have to have a climbing up and you need to cut the bottom spots right? එතකොට මේ diagram is almost shape එකේ හරි. Now what you need to know is how the long run economies of scale would fit into play. Right? So when it comes to output, your curve would show something like long run average cost curves. And your MC would be something like this. And again in here we have three stages. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Right. Now tell me, before going into this in detail, how to define law of economies of scale? Type in the chat box. What do you mean by law of economies of scale? What do you mean by economies of scale? Why don't you put in the chat box? Definition එක මොකද්ද? Chat box එකේ දාන්න. Yes, type and let me know. Okay. So හරි දැන් ඔයාලා ඔය කියන්නේ නමයි නිකන් පොඩ්ඩක් අර එහෙම්ෙන් යන definitions. මම ලස්සන definition එකක් articulate කරලා පෙන්නන්නම් අර අපේ returns to scale එක වගේ. හරි. First thing what you need to know, right? I'll use this page. First thing is now tell me this is Right. Right. Okay. Good. Right. Give me answers for this blank. Right. First blank. In whether this is short run or long run, you can put in the chat box. In short run or long run. The first blank. Short run or long run. Yes. In long run. Now tell me, you receive which benefit? You receive which benefit? You receive a benefit. Right? You receive which benefit? Financial benefits. Right? Financial benefit received due to expansion in the scale of production. Next one. Due to this will decrease when this is increased. මොකක්ද අඩු වෙන්නේ නමයි මොකක් වැඩි වෙද්දිද? මොකක්ද අඩු වෙන්නේ මොකක් වැඩි වෙද්දිද? What is reducing? Is it simple average cost or is long run average cost? හරියි. exam එකේදී නිකන් average cost කිව්වොත් හරියද? long run average cost කිව්වොත් හරියි. It have to be long run. එක අමතක කරන්න එපා හරිද? It have to be all the time, but long run average cost will decrease. මොකක්ද වැඩි වෙන්නේ? Inputs outputs. මොකක්ද වැඩි කරන්නේ අපි? Inputs or outputs? Is it දෙවෙනි inputs ද මෙයා අපේ අරන් තියෙන inputs ද capacity වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Input ගන්න වැඩි වෙනවද output එක වැඩි වෙනවද? Output. අතට තියාගන්න output. Look, now you could remember last time in return to scale we discussed about what? මතකද මේ මෑදලා? We use inputs, or rather we use outputs and we use inputs. And up to right. Right? We use outputs and we use inputs in return to scale. But in here, look, we use cost and output. That is the difference between economies of scale and return to scale. That's why we can't use cost curves to represent a return to scale, because return to scale is all about outputs and inputs. Only economies of scale would be using cost and output. ඔවා තමයි ළමයි අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕනේ point. ඇයි අපි මේක වෙනස් කරලා ඉගෙන ගන්නේ? Right? Okay. Now, given the context, we have three stages. In the first stage, stage one, what would happen, right? In a simple scenario, your long run average cost, what would happen? Increase, decrease, or constant? Your long run average cost will what happen? It starts to increase, decrease, or constant. Long run average cost. What do we know? Where do we know? Yes, it will start long run average cost will decrease. Stage one, that is stage one. Next one is stage two. But what do we call for stage one? Negative number. මොකද අපි මේකට කියන්නේ මොකක් කියලාද කියන්නේ? Why this thing happen? මොකද අපි මේකේ නම? This is one of economies of scale. Yes, this is increasing economies of scale. Oh, දෙවෙනි, look. You can't call this as return to scale. How they can not return to scale කියලා? අපි මේ කතා කරන්නේ economies of scale. You can't call this one as return to scale. Why? Why return to scale? Because return to scale represent a real benefit. Return to scale කියන්නේ ළමයි something else. Economies of scale කියන්නේ something else. අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම there would be a paper, there would be a question in your paper, right? මම දැම්ම කියනවා හරියට උත්තර ලියන්න. ඊළඟ paper එකේ අනිවාර්යයෙන් you will have the question. I will put the question. The difference between increasing economies of scale and increasing returns to scale. උත්තරේ ඕන දැම්මම ප්‍රශ්නේ කිව්වා උත්තරේ ලියන්න ඉගෙනගෙන එන්න. Right? So you can't call this one as returns to scale. මේ අපි returns to scale ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. Why? Returns to scale means it's a real benefit. It is regarding input and output. But economies of scale, it is about cost and output. Right? So ඒකින්ද returns to scale නෙමෙයි මේ. ඒක ඇතුළේම වැරදි. This is increasing economies of scale. Second one, long run average cost. Deal. මොකද වෙන්නේ? Increase, decrease or constant? Yes, this is constant. So we call this one as what? Constant economies of scale. The last one. Okay, the last one now. This is long run average cost will increase. We call this one as decreasing economies of scale. Right? So this is simply now. Next week class එකේදී අපි paper එකේ කතා කරමු මේ point. Right? Okay, now tell me what are the reasons for increasing increasing economies of scale? What are the reasons? Right? Yes, you can also call this one as these economies of scale. This is this economies of scale, or else decreasing economies of scale. It's also the same logic, same meaning. This economies of scale. Good dinner. Thank you. Right. Okay, coming to the point. What are the reasons for increasing the economies of scale? What are the reasons here? Exam එකේ ඔන්න අහනවා. What are the reasons for increasing economies of scale? What you can write for this? මොනවාද ලියන්න පුළුවන් exam එකේදී? The first main important thing you need to write. මේ exam එකේදී frequently අහන point එකක්. හරිද? අහපු ගමන් උදෙන්ම ලියන්න ඕන උදේ පාන්දර මොකද්ද? Right? We have two main reasons. Right? මොකද්ද two main reasons for increasing economies of scale? What are the two main reasons? Can one cover it? What are the two main reasons? Reasons දෙකයි තියෙන්නේ mainly. ඉතුරු ඔක්කොම sub ඒවා. මොකද exam එකේ මේ දෙක ලියුම නැත්නම් වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔය economics දන්නේ නැහැ. මොකක්ද මේ හරි දෙක? What are the main two reasons for increasing economies of scale? Anyone? Yes, Kavindya, good. Right? This is what? This is internal economies of scale and external economies of scale. Right? You have learned this, right? We have the internal economies of scale, which represents of internal factors, and we have external economies of scale, which represent external factors. Then what again? What are the internal reasons we have? What are the internal economies of scale we have? Nothing. Yes, we have lots. Financial efficiency. Managerial. Then we can call it as operational. We have technological. Right? We are getting the efficiencies you have due to internal factors. The main reason is that these are all internal factors. Again, why company asset you can control them. It's a company, inside your company which you have to control. Now tell me, what are the external economies of scale? Reasons. What are the external things? What do we have? Yes? Not seeing capital. We have the infrastructure, right? Infrastructure developments. What more? Yes. Availability of resources. Like labor and all, right? How autonomous can from healthy, favorable government policy. These are the main reasons for what? For increasing economies of scale. Now, what is happened if the examiner asks about right? Ask about reasons for decreasing economies of scale. Right? Ilanga paper question. Find out the reasons for decreasing economies of scale. Decreasing economies of scale. Reasons only for increasing economies of scale. Specifically for increasing economies of scale. Na? We discuss everything for them. For increasing economies of scale, and we will have one definition for decreasing economies of scale also, right? Alright. This is basically your cost structure, the cost behavior. Then මේක ඔක්කොම අපි next week එකේදී paper එකේදී we'll be putting here and there and we'll figure out the relationships, the connections, the dots, the differences, everything අපි paper එකේදී කතා කරනවා. So paper එක පුරාවටම තියෙන මේ වගේ දේවල්, connections, dots, එතකොට differences, similarities ඒව තමයි එන්නේ. කියන්නේ මේ ඉගෙනගත්ත දේවල්, සංගණන ඉගෙනගත්ත දේවල් we are going to put into one track, one plain paper, right? So මම කිව්ව paper එක කරන්නේ it is on the 3rd, right? So please be mindful that this will be helpful for me with the payment. So make it beforehand so that I can add you to the respective groups. So so elasticity, yes, I'll be doing videos on elasticities, right? And trust me, I was a little busy occupied these days. So due to, as soon as I'm getting a little bit of free time, I'll definitely do a video on elasticity. Continue definitely the cross price and the income elasticities. Continue. I'll put videos on there and I'll put it in the YouTube. You can follow up. Definitely I'll be covering them. And I'm hoping to do a little bit on this income effect, substitution effect. Look, let's see. Feel free to, if you have any concerns, any points you need to recap, CT, just put me a little text. So I'll try my best to get at least YouTube videos you can revisit. Not all, right? But some things which will be very common and very helpful, I'll do them in the YouTube and you can cover up. So one last thing, if you want, take a screenshot. And if there's anyone who has done all these screenshots, please do share it in the group. So it would be helpful for the others also. Right? Puluwan nang screenshots in group so they would also get the copy. Right, okay, one important thing, just copy down before I wind up. Right, so that's pretty much it for the day. So we have discussed the main 3 aspects. Then next week paper next week make a second part come into play where market structures, oligopoly, monopoly, blah blah blah, and the TR concepts, MR concepts, and everything we'll be discussing together. So that's pretty much it for the day. Thank you for your time. And one last reminder: next class would be on the paper class. Then that is on Patlagandipalamai on 3rd. And our first revision class, where we would be discussing on the make Anit Parteka. First taking Anit Parteka, we will be discussing on, it's on 7th, it's a Wednesday, on 7th, 9:30 p.m. හරිද ඒකෙන් මේ වෙන්ස්ඩේ මුකුත් නැහැ හරිද මේ වෙන්ස්ඩේ හිතන්න එපා මම ලින්ක් එකක් දානකම් බලන් ඉන්න එපා මේ වෙන්ස්ඩේ මුකුත් නැහැ I තියෙන්නේ next Saturday ඊට පස්සේ තමයි Wednesday Saturday it goes and we will be having 2 WhatsApp groups මතක තියාගන්න 2 WhatsApp groups one is for paper class July and revision class July එතකොට මම ඔයාලා වැඩ කරලා නැත්නම් for the respective groups මට remind කරන්න and ළමයි I'm little busy during daytime because I'm a full time worker right I work in the corporate ඒකින්ද මම සමහරට පොඩ්ඩක් මිස් වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඒකින්ද මම message එක seen කරලා නැත්නම් ආයෙ මට remind කරන්න හරිද එතකොට I'll be checking it mostly after 10න් පස්සේ තමයි මම පොඩ්ඩක් ඒවා reply කරන්නේ ඒකින්ද මම answer කරේ නැත්නම් මේ worry වෙන්න එපා I would suggest not to call but put a text WhatsApp message මම බැලුවේ නැත්නම් මට ආයෙ ඒක reply කරන්න එතකොට it would come up ඔයාලා දන්නවා ඉතින් WhatsApp ගැන ඒක ආයෙ උඩට ආවම මට ඒකට reply කරන්න පුළුවන් right so that is for the day thank you and it's a one full month we have been doing this one and I'm pretty happy and I personally believe we did a nice job ගොඩක් දේවල් වල ඉගෙන ගන්න ඇති මටත් හරි සතුටුයි that you guys have done something and we have learned something so I would love to hear some comments one month එකක් ඉවරයි පුළුවන් අය ඉන්නවනම් පොඩි comment එකක් දෙන්න මට regarding what sort of things we really need to improve what areas we need to push and how the things need to fall into and my revision class paper class කතාවත් ඔයාලම තමයි suggest කරේ ඔයාලගේ ළමයි මට suggest කරේ not that I gave something so feel free to drop me any text at any given time and that's it for the day and until we meet up on the next week stay safe and take care and also please do make the payment of 2,000 or else 1,500 and let me know so take care guys good night and God bless and until we see you take care and stay safe